All right, thanks for joining everyone. I think we can slowly kick things off here. So welcome to our summer release What's New webinar. Appreciate everyone taking the time to jump in today. So we're very excited to run you through the new features and capabilities that we've been working on for this release. My name's Stephen Tram. Today I'm joined by my colleague Mike Everett, all the way in the UK. And we also have some special guests on the panel today. So they're from the product and solutions team. And these are the experts that have been working diligently to build out these amazing features that we're covering off today. So before we kick things off, just a few things that I wanted to highlight. With the product and solutions teams being on the panel today, if you have any questions as we go through any of the features, feel free to ask it in the chat and we'll be happy to answer them. As I mentioned earlier, we're recording this session, so we'll send out an email early next week with the link, and it'll be available on the Visier YouTube channel as well. Alrighty, just to cover off the agenda. So I wanted to introduce Workplace Dynamics. It's the newest addition to the Visier People Suite. And then we'll cover some platform enhancements. So for the summer release, there's a lot of features that we've put into this release to improve the overall user experience. And we'll be diving into a pretty comprehensive demo with Mike as we cover through this. After that, I'm going to run through the key highlights of the summer release. So we've got a new employee objectives and key results, capabilities, scheduled hours to help enhance our workforce solution, hybrid workspace planning, as well as enhanced spans and layers to understand and optimize your team structures throughout your organization. And then at the end, if there's any additional questions, we'll be happy to answer them there, and then we'll wrap it up from there. So we do have a lot of content to cover. It should be a pretty tight 45 minutes. Any other questions that you've got that we can't answer here, I can reach out by email and we can get that sorted as well. All right, so let's get into it. I'm really excited to introduce Workplace Dynamics. So in May of this year, we announced the acquisition of the assets of Eva. They are a leader in collaboration analytics. So this is a very important acquisition for us. It helps us to move closer towards our goal of being able to help businesses to uncover and deeply understanding the human truths that exist within the organization. And doing that by shining a light on how people work and the ways in which they work together. We know in this current climate, it's critical for organizations to be able to support their teams, managers, and individual employees as best they can. And to do that, they really need to understand individual productivity and get a deeper understanding of team effectiveness and collaboration. So with that, I'm happy to introduce and share with you more details around Workplace Dynamics. It is really helping organizations to understand who employees are collaborating with, when they're doing it, on what tasks, on what projects, and helping to provide continuous insights that help to unlock productivity, reveal hidden organizational risks, and enable and empower everyone within that organization to become better teammates, managers, and partners. So Workplace Dynamics is the first and only solution that's taking both passive feedback and active feedback and providing insights into team effectiveness, early warning signals on burnout and attrition, and uncovering hidden or underutilized talent within your workforce. So we're taking passive feedback to gain insights into team collaboration. And we're taking this from multiple sources, including G Suite, Office 365, Microsoft Teams, Slack, Jira, and Zoom. With this information, active feedback in the form of intelligent surveys that are sent to both employees and managers helps to uncover insights that guide them to become more effective collaborators, driving more team performance and individual performance, and helping to ignite personal growth throughout the organization. So with Workplace Dynamics, we're taking employee sentiment, feedback and collaboration and work patterns, and turning that into real-time actionable insights that help individuals and managers to be able to thrive and to build resiliency. So on the right side, you can see that with employees, they're getting their own personal reports with insights into burnout and wellness, so they can address any risks and any issues early before it really becomes a big problem. They get a better understanding of their collaboration circles, so who they're working most closely with, what tasks they're working on, as well as personal leadership. So understanding more deeply their personal leadership style and the impact that they have throughout their organization. So with all of this information, it's really helping individual employees to drive more productivity within themselves and to help them to grow personally and to contribute across that organization. For leaders, they're gaining insights into turnover risk, so they're able to address any issues within their teams. They get a better understanding of how their teams are working together and where there might be some challenges that they can address. And they're also getting the deeper, rich insights into their individual team members, helping them to lead and empower their teams as they move forward. So yeah, this is really exciting. We've just released this. I'm going to pass it over to Mike now, who's going to give us a demo of Workplace Dynamics.
Thank you, Stephen. It was pointed out to us that the chat is disabled. Was that intentional, Stephen?
Just
going to use the Q&A, or?
You can use the Q&A for now. Let me just enable this while you.
Right. So I think we had 5 minutes for this Workplace Dynamics piece. So I've literally got 30 seconds to show you some stuff. But I know that people are going to be really interested in this. Now, I will caveat this with the fact that, this is a really recent acquisition of Visier's. We are still working on the integration. We are making changes to the product. We're integrating it to Visier. We're building out new guidebook content. So pretty much everything I show you is subject to change, but I just wanted to give you a feeling for some of the things that Workplace Dynamics is going to be capable of. The first thing that Stephen mentioned really was around the surveying capabilities. So these are smart surveys. So there's an algorithm in the background that's working out, who you should be asking about what and to whom. There's like a bank of 105 questions that are randomly selected. I say randomly selected by the smart algorithm, where individuals can then, say how they're feeling, talk about, they can understand about engagement, satisfaction. There's opportunities for employee to employee feedback. And as you can see, I can work my way through the questions. I can give scores as per any other survey. But then we start to get to the collaboration circle capabilities, where the survey is picking out the people that are in your circle that you're working with on a regular basis, and a lot of this information will come from that passive analysis of things like email, Gmail, Slack, Zoom, Teams, etc. So this person, Danette, clearly does some work with these people and can respond appropriately. I'm not going to go through all of that, but there's a question set. This is generally supposed to be done on a weekly basis, can take 2 minutes to whistle through the questions, and it gives the organization constant continuous feedback for the organization. The second thing I wanted to just show is we're giving something back to the employees, right? So it's not all about monitoring and kind of secret squirrel and trying to catch people out. This is providing them with feedback so that they can improve themselves and make themselves a better person within the organization. So there are things like these collaboration styles, which is also known as like informal leadership styles. You can also analyze things like the collaboration circles. So you can see the people within the organization that you spend most time with in terms of sending emails to, receiving emails from, and the strength of connection you have with those individuals based across the multiple channels. There's also a well-being index, which ranges from 100 to -100. And this helps you understand if an individual is becoming burnt out. Workplace Dynamics is assessing a number of different stages of burnout. So, a frustration phase when people's activity drops off, and then they drop into a negative well-being where they're in the beginnings of being kind of early burnout. And the longer they spend in that burnout stage, then that moves into late burnout. And and then you can start looking at if they spend like 8 weeks in late burnout, then there's a high likelihood that these individuals could be resigning. So I mean, there's an absolute ton of information in here that's available. It's done on a consent basis, so employees can opt in or opt out. And there, it's a really, I mean, the more and more I read and find out about this solution, it's the more excited I get. So I'm going to end there because we've got a lot of other content to get through, but I just wanted to give you a little flavor for what we were showing here. Back to you, Stephen.
Thanks, Mike. I see some questions in the chat from Sarah and Karina. I'll get to them shortly. Alrighty, now moving on, we're going to cover platform enhancements. So when I kick things off, I mentioned that with the summer release, we have packed a lot of smaller enhancements that go to improve overall user experience, making things a lot more easier and streamlining a lot of the processes. So I'm going to share with you 3 of these features, but then hand it back to Mike, who's going to cover these 3 features in detail, but also quite a few other different ones that we've put into the summer release. So the first one that I wanted to cover is called People Actions. So we've got the view history and the potential career path visualizations. These are powerful visualizations that are often used, but take a few clicks to get to. So for this release, we're simplifying the workflow, making it a lot more accessible to users. And we're doing this by including it in 3 separate areas where you can access view history and potential career paths. So within view details, you can access it in the more actions menu. Within the members section of insights, you can access it from there. And within the compare room, you can access it through the more actions menu. So Mike's going to show us that in more detail in a second. But the next one I wanted to cover was selection experience. So we're also looking to streamline the visualization and chart creation process. So we're including relevant suggestions, as well as recent items to make it easier and faster for users to get to the information that they need. So rather than having a full list of categories, metrics, and attributes that pop up and having to spend time looking for the exact item that you need, this update creates a more smarter and simplified process and just provides an overall better experience for users that are creating visualizations. And the last one I wanted to cover is explore this. So this is helping you to explore visual items on a chart more easily. All you need to do is right click on the object and click on explore. So if you're looking at a breakdown of your headcount by organization hierarchy, you can explore and dive a bit deeper into your sales team. So what this does is this adds a filter to the chart. And it automatically adds a relevant group by. So users get more insights and information about that piece of data, and they can drill in fairly easily just straight from the visualization. All right, I'll pass it back to Mike, who's going to cover these 3 and a bunch of other features that we've got.
Thank you, Stephen. I think I answered Sarah's question. I'm much quicker at talking than typing. I've discovered that's for sure. Right. Yeah, I mean, Stephen just talked through three usability features that we've added into this release. I mean, I've got 10 to show you, so I'm going to try and rattle through those as quickly as possible. But again, please, if you need any more information, then please stick it in the chat or the Q&A. I'm sure many of you have been signing into Visier this week, and you've noticed, for starters, there's a new homepage, a new sign-in page about really seeing your employees. That confused me a little bit when I first signed in on Monday, but no worries, the same capabilities. You still need to remember your username and your password. So the first new feature I wanted to show you was about the new button order. You'll notice I have a ton of buttons down the left-hand side, partly because I have access to Studio and Data Designer, so those buttons are no longer hidden. Before they were just kind of popping up when you hovered over them. So if you have access to Studio, you'll now see that firmly planted on the left menu. You'll also see that we've reordered them. So we've tried to do this intelligently so that the guidebook and the analyses, which are, where you've got kind of content, those are both together now near the top. And then you've got kind of more explore, compare, captures, etc. for actually kind of doing stuff and building stuff further down. So we will eventually have a Workplace Dynamics button that will slot in, I think, just underneath analyses. So there's just a little bit of a reordering there to try and catch you out. The second new feature I wanted to talk about, I can't actually show it to you because we disabled it briefly whilst we fix a few slight issues we found with it. But this search bar that you'll see here, if I type in, female, what this will now show is this will now show some synonyms. So if, for example, you type in female, it will also show you metrics and analyses that have the word woman. That's all currently hard coded, but there are those synonyms that are appearing in the background. There's also the and logic in the search will change to an or. So just to make the search more friendly if you're typing in multiple words. So that's number two. Number three is the full screen search UI. So if I type in headcount and actually hit on enter and go into the full screen search box, and I don't know why it didn't come up with anything there. It's probably because I spelt it wrong. But you'll now see that you kind of get a clearer delineation from what's an analysis and what's a metric, and you can go to explore from here, or you can go to the analysis, and it's just a bit clearer as to what it is that you found in the search, and more easily get to hopefully where you want to go to. So 4 is explore this. So if I go into the explore room, and as you know, the default is breakdown by headcount, breakdown of headcount by org hierarchy. You'll now notice that if you click on a bar, you get a little set of binoculars on the right-hand side in the side info panel, but also you can access the same thing by right-clicking, and you can go to explore operations. And in my demo environment, the way this is currently configured, you'll notice that first of all I go to it will show me a breakdown of gender, and then it pops the org hierarchy operations that I clicked on in the filter, and I can continue working my way through this. So if I explore man, it then will pull up ethnicity, and if I right click on white, it will pop into things like age, and then it will continue and add in the filters, and it really helps you kind of drill down through some commonly used slices and dices that are common. Again, this is not configurable, but it's refreshed on a quarterly basis, and it's based on what's currently common amongst your usage of Visier, and that's across the tenant. So a really useful feature there for easily navigating down through a hierarchy and using some common search capabilities. Okay, let me just reset this. Okay, number 5 is people action. So this is one of the ones that Stephen had a slide on. So if I return to my breakdown of headcount by org hierarchy, and I drill down, say, through product, and then I'll go into my innovation center, and then my design center. And what I'm trying to actually find is I'm trying to find a group of 5 or less people. So in my Europe design center, I have 5 individuals. and immediately I click on that bar of 5 people. On the right-hand side in the info panel, I have my 5 members are listed. I can very easily now just add all of those to the compare room. So if I wanted to compare those 5 people, just click on the one button, takes me to the compare room, adds all of those individuals. I can look at the differences between them. I also have some other options. So if I click on the 3 dots beside them, again, I can add an individual to the compare, but I've also really got real quick access to some useful features like view their history, but also view their potential career path. If I go into view details, I'll show you the screenshot that Stephen had on his slide, and that's basically the 3 dots on an individual within the view details. Also gives you quick access to that add, compare, view history, and view potential career path options. Okay, the 6th enhancement I wanted to talk about was an enhancement to view history. If I click on view history, it loads really quickly. Now, we've made this more performant, and the way we've made it more performant is by matching the granularity of your previous view to the one now seen in view history. So if I was looking at a weekly view, or I would come in with a weekly granularity in the view history. If I was looking at a quarterly view, it would give me a quarterly view. And part of the reason was this is because the default was basically a daily view. So lots of slices, lots of detail, but often more than was actually required. So that's really great. That makes it quicker to get into, but also matches the granularity that you were looking at previously. Right, the 7th enhancement I wanted to talk about was, and I will access the compare room for Amaryllis. What a great name, Amaryllis. So I'm going to compare Amaryllis to the rest of his buddies, his copywriters. Actually, what I'll do is I'll use a feature that came out in the last release, which was basically find similar people. Saved me doing too much work. But one thing that you'll see when I do the compare and I pin Amaryllis is that, of course, you get the familiar bars with the red dots on them to show you where Amaryllis sits amongst his or her peers. And I can easily select, say if I want to look at this compa ratio, I can see that the red dot is well below the median. Amaryllis is some way off the median in terms of compa ratio. That might have been a concern if this individual was high risk of exit. But the interesting thing and the feature I wanted to point out was the fact that you now have a capture button. So if you wanted to capture this as a specific full screen visualization, you can then go to your captures and you will see that I've been doing this all week, because I think the only thing I've been capturing are, oh no, I have some other things here, but you can now see that I have a full screen visualization of that distribution chart. So if I'm building an analysis and I wanted to put that full screen distribution visualization into an analysis, that's nice and easy. We are targeting, because I know the next question you're probably going to ask me is, when will that be available from the chart picker in the Explore room? And we're aiming for the autumn fall release, but that's not guaranteed. But fairly soon, it's gonna become its own chart type within the chart picker. Okay, that's 7 down, 3 to go. So the other thing I wanted to show you, number 8, is the simplified selection process. So one of the previous, I wouldn't call it an issue, it's just, normally when you click on the metric picker, immediately you click on the metric picker, you go full screen, straight into a whole bunch of metrics. You see a ton of stuff. It can be a bit overwhelming for the casual user. And also you lose the context, because immediately you go into a different screen and maybe you forget what you were actually trying to analyze in the first place. But now we have a nice little pop-up window that shows your usual suggested metrics. If I wanted to see all of the metrics, or I wanted to search through the metrics, then I can just click on the appropriate link, and I can then choose the metric I want, the one I'm interested in, just like that. You get the same kind of pop-up window if you if you click on your group buys, but you now get a recent set of group buys. So if you were recently using gender, for example, and you wanted to slice it that way, then you can do that too. So that was number 8. 2 more. Number 9 is time comparison. What I really want to do here is I want to do a time comparison. So let me say on trend or trend breakdown charts, if you wanted previously to compare, say, resignation rates, sorry, terrible typing. I should really wear my glasses. So if I wanted to compare resignation rates from one year to the next, previously I would have had to done it on different charts. But now we have the ability to compare year to year within the same chart. And you can select up to 4 years. So if I wanted to look at resignation rates across 4 different years, and I'm going to remove this filter because I was quite specific, I can now see the differences from 2018, 19, 20, and 21, all within a single chart. So that's a really useful addition. And number 10, and finally, some of you will be absolutely delighted to hear that now within the table visualization, you have the ability to, if I just pull up my metrics, apply filters to your metrics. So you'll notice that in the previous version, this would have just been a little edit pencil. So you would have just been able to edit the metric, but now you can apply a filter. And if you're adding multiple metrics, so if I wanted to look at resignation rates versus turnover rates, and I wanted to have different filters on different metrics, I can filter those differently and separately. So that's a really great addition to the table visualization. I'm ready to hand back over to you, Stephen.
Great, thanks, Mike. That was a lot. Let me share my screen again. Awesome. Yeah, that was really jam-packed. We're going to get into our bigger key features for summer release. But just a reminder, we do have all of this information on the community portal. There's a What's New knowledge base article as well, if you want to go back and reference any of these features that we're covering. Now, the first key feature I wanted to chat about is employee objectives and key results. So every organization understands how important it is to set business and employee goals and objectives. It gives you a direction of where you need or where you want to get to, and it allows you to track and to see what has actually been achieved. But what if you also had an early warning system where you got a better indication of your likelihood of achieving those goals that you've set, as well as an understanding of what might be impacting goal achievement. So employee OKRs is a new solution that really helps organizations to do just that. We're helping them to understand the people impact and the risk on achieving objectives, and giving the foresight that's needed to be able to take action to ensure that the goals are met. So we're doing this by combining your employee goals data with people metrics to help you to identify goal achievement drivers and assess the likelihood of achieving those goals. So understanding the impact of engagement scores, turnover, manager instability on goal achievement, and understanding how engagement, rewards, recognition, and performance is really helping to drive those business outcomes that you're after. So this is available in our Talent Expert module. We're also offering it as a separate new package called Visier People Performance. If you're interested in this solution and you want to see more, you can contact your CSM and they'll be able to get you in touch with someone to run you through a demo. Now, the next key feature I wanted to highlight is scheduled hours. So this is a massive enhancement to our workforce solution. And it's great for organizations that have a lot of hourly workers. So previously, we allowed the loading of data on actual hours, so regular overtime absences, but now users are able to load in scheduled data. So this helps you to compare what you've planned with what has actually happened. So you can dive into specific teams, days, or individual employees, and you can understand gaps that you might have in your schedule. You can identify where you've lacked the staff to fill shifts. You can understand where your overtime is concentrated throughout your organization. And you can see where your agency costs have increased associated with filling those gaps. Besides that, you're also able to understand compliance. So you can see where the risk and costs are that exist where employees are failing to work when they're supposed to. And lastly, you can also assess the impact of vacant shifts. So you can see where you're taking productivity hits, and you can see where there's service level failures that you can address and mitigate. So this is available in our workforce solution. And again, if you are interested in this, feel free to reach out to your CSM and they can connect you to the right person. The next big feature for the summer release is hybrid workspace planning. So with the transition back into office work and a more hybrid work structure, we're seeing that a lot of organizations are struggling with this. So there's misalignment between leadership and employees in terms of expectations of leadership and the employee preferences of where they want to work and how they want to work. And also coordination across the business to work out who's going to be in the office when, which teams are going to be in the office, and which teams are best suited to work remotely or in office. It's a very tedious and often confusing process. And we're seeing a lot of organizations struggling with this throughout the year. So with hybrid workspace planning, we've partnered with Medallia to help organizations transition back to hybrid work in a better way by opening up more conversations with employees early to understand their preferences and how they're feeling, and to be able to unlock insights to optimize productivity and engagement throughout that transition. So how are we doing this? We're combining a pre-built survey that Medallia has built to really understand employee preferences and to provide a baseline measurement on meaningful categories that optimize outcomes such as having a sense of purpose, belonging, impact, productivity, and D&I. And there's also micropulse surveys included to ensure continuous listening to help keep a pulse on your employees throughout that transition period to ensure that they're continuing to be engaged, productive, and if there's anything that needs to be addressed throughout that period. So with these surveys combined with our tailored planning model, it allows you to set goals for in-office attendance per day and measure against your actual attendance. You're able to model out office capacity and understand where you might be stretched. And you can also see where there's a lot of vacancies that could lead to cancellation in one of your leases, leading to cost savings. And lastly, you can identify the employee groups and roles that will benefit most from either working from home or having to need to be in the office. And this is just going to help with overall optimizing productivity in each of your teams and providing the best working environment possible. So we're really excited about hybrid workspace planning. It's a timely solution that's much needed. And it's really helping to manage the balance between the demanding needs of business leaders and the employee preferences. And it's helping to maintain engagement and productivity and reduce attrition of your top talent throughout these disruptive changes. So for planning customers, you'll be receiving this new planning model. You will need to be licensed for employee experience, so our talent expert module for that survey data. But we're also offering this solution as a new product. So if you're interested in this, again, please contact your CSM or you can log a technical support ticket and someone will be in touch with next steps. Now, before I pass it over to Mike, we also have a few other planning capabilities that we've released for summer that I just wanted to highlight here. These are restore to snapshot, planning period settings, and planning targets. So restore to snapshot, pretty obvious. If you've made any changes within a plan and you want to go back to a previous version, sometimes you can't recall how you can go back to that version, or it might be time consuming to do so. So restore to snapshot provides you with a quick and easy way to just restore back to a snapshot of a plan. So you can just jump back to previous settings. For planning period settings, for any of our new planning models, modelers can now set their plan period to yearly, quarterly, monthly, and weekly periods. So this just helps to tailor plans to their specific needs. And lastly, for planning targets, it's allowing planners to set a minimum value in their plan by comparing it with the value of another. So for example, if you're looking at guided diversity, you can look at projected diversity ratio in leadership roles against the organization's ratio goal, and a red circle within that cell would indicate that that value is under the target value. All right, ready for a demo, Mike? Over to you.
Thank you. I've just realized there's a question, another question from Sarah, which I haven't got to. I think it's a question. I'll get to it in a second. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to show you the hybrid workspace planning. Now, I mean, the planning capabilities within Visier are just going from strength to strength, adding more power, more flexibility, more options. So, you know, if you're familiar with the planning solution, I mean, even if you don't use it, you probably had a demo of it at some point. But you know, so you know, whereas in the, I don't know, 12 months ago, we had just one option and it was a pre-built model and it was pretty rigid, good, but rigid, was the headcount and cost planning. But we've added, you know, guided diversity planning, the forecasting, headcount modeling, which is more operational, you know, incorporating some of our talent acquisition data. And we've now got this hybrid workspace planning model. And as Stephen said, it's like, you know, we're taking survey data. Now, you know, as Stephen said, we've been working with Medallia to come up with that survey because it's, you know, it can be quite a specialized subject. And I think we have to recognize the fact that, you know, kind of hybrid workspace planning, it's a practice. You know, everyone is probably doing it. I mean, I'll tell you a story. So my wife works for a tech company, and before, you know, she works in cybersecurity, and before the pandemic, she was in the office 5 days a week. They had mobile lockdowns. They couldn't take mobiles into the office. I mean, it's super lockdown. Of course, as soon as the pandemic came along, everyone was working from home. You know, and now they like working from home, and some organizations are struggling to get people back into the office. And they're losing out on collaboration. People are getting burnt out because, you know, they're stuck at home. They don't necessarily know they're getting burnt out. But, you know, a number of people within my wife's team have left the organization for fear of having to come back into the office. So, you know, this process and practice of modeling who wants to work remotely, who doesn't want to work remotely, who wants to come into the office, what days are they coming into the office, you know, is a complex and important issue that many organizations are facing. So that's why we built this model. I've got this model here that just basically shows a breakdown of my headcount across different departments within my organization. If I go to my plan items, you can see here, the first thing I'm going to point out is the weekly you know, cadence of this particular planning model. And this is what part of the reason why we're adding new features to the engine in the background, because we bring out new models that require, you know, different configurations. So you know, you can see then that we've got the days of the week. So this would be automatically populated from that survey data from Medallia or another. And then you can start to look at, you know, the amount of the number of people you've got, the average kind of workspace requirements. You can compare actuals to planned, and, you know, not only are you looking at, do I have enough office space, but it's, do I have enough, contribution of people coming into the office and collaborating and, having that kind of face-to-face interaction. And of course, as with anything, you can segment this however you like. So if you wanted to segment this by manager, for example, and you can have different, targets for managers. Managers might have their own ideas of the percentage of people they want in the office on any given day. So it's a really powerful model and dealing with an everyday issue. Whilst I'm here and pointing out things like the weekly granularity of the plan, I'm also going to point out the fact that this restored snapshot option that we've added, means that if you make a ton of changes, you've got a snapshot that you can roll back to, but you can't remember exactly what you did. Then you can just roll it back and it's like almost like a version control. And then the last one was planning targets, and actually hybrid workspace planning, just like guided diversity planning, is where you need those minimum values as well as maybe the maximum values. So the maximum values might represent the amount of office space you've got. The minimum values might represent the percentage of people that you want into in the office on any given day. So that's me done. Back over to you, Stephen.
Thanks, Mike. Alrighty. Now, this is the last but not least feature that we're going to cover from the summer release. It's a highly requested feature from our customers. So this is enhanced spans and layers, and it's giving more insight into your total indirect span of control, your total overall span of control, and an understanding of the reporting layers below each manager. So with this information, you can better understand how your organization is structured, and you can identify team structures that can be optimized to help improve cost, efficiency, and productivity throughout your organization. Now, I'll be handing it back to Mike now for a quick demo of this before we go into questions.
Oh, that came back quickly. Right. Okay, so the final thing. So let's let me do a search for spans. So yeah, we've got a couple of new guidebooks. We've got a learn about spans and layers. We've got a step-by-step guide to spans and layers. I'll start in the learn about. And this is where I think most of our customers should start, to be fair, because it goes through in a lot of detail with a lot of narrative, what we've added, why we've added it. And I mean, we've had spans and layers within Visier for years now, but what we've added is the ability to look at directs and indirects. And so you can see now that we very specifically highlighted the fact that the original span of control metric is of direct reports. But then we have the what we call the portfolio span of control, which is basically all of the people beneath you. Now I'm going to just remove my directs from my filter at the top. So this basically then shows you the by slice by organization the general size of the organization and of the managers of managers teams. And like I said, a lot of narrative to describe exactly what we're looking at. And then we can start to look at things like the number of indirects versus direct managers, the numbers of managers by direct span of control. So you can start to identify, managers that have, no direct reports, or managers that have particularly big teams, and, start to look at the distribution across the organization. And, there's not necessarily a right or wrong answer in terms of spans of controls. We've got lots of customers who have done studies, and quite often it depends on the type of work that's being done, the type of role. One of our customers was looking at their sales organization and found their sales organization actually performed better in slightly smaller teams. So like I said, you need to analyze in detail, and we have to slice and dice all of these metrics across your organization and compare them to other business KPIs. So if you're loading in things like sales, productivity, customer satisfaction, you can start to have a look at, well, what size of team works best for this type of role? Of course, we've got things like manager ratio, which we've always had, and this is what allows you to benchmark yourself against other organizations. And we've also added some new capabilities, or at least some deeper capabilities around reporting layers, and things like, you know, how deep within the organization a particular part of that business goes. I did also say that we've got a step-by-step guide to spans and layers, but I think we're running out of time. So feel free to have a look at this in your own time. But, you know, this is looking at, you know, how has it changed over time? Which organization is adding spans, removing spans, adding layers, removing layers, you know, to give a really thorough understanding of your organization and how it's structured and how that structure is changing over time. So, time to wrap up, I guess.
It is. We are 2 minutes over time. Appreciate everyone that has jumped on today. But we have a bit more time now if there's any questions that we can answer right now. Let me have a look in the chat. Hopefully we've covered everything. Sarah, I know you had a few questions around workplace dynamics. Hopefully the demo and our responses helped you to get those answers. If there's any other questions that you've got, feel free to reach out and we can get you some more details. All right, it looks like there's no other questions. So last call for any other questions before we wrap this up. Okay, I think people are starting to drop off, so I think we're all good to go. Thanks again, everyone, for joining today, and we'll see you next time. And thanks a lot to the panelists and for Mike for running this session today. Have a great day, everyone.
Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.